The words still echo in my mind like a gunshot that never stops ringing. Apologize to him, or get out of my house. My mother's voice was shaking with rage, her face twisted into something I barely recognized. My father stood behind her, arms crossed, saying nothing, which somehow felt worse than if he had screamed too. My younger brother stood there smirking, knowing he had won again, just like he always did. I looked at the destruction around me, at the months of work shattered on the floor, at the future I had built with my own hands now reduced to worthless scraps. Something inside me went completely silent in that moment, like a light switching off forever. I met her eyes, felt the weight of 17 years of being invisible pressing down on my chest, and said 2 words that would change everything. Got it. That night, I disappeared. I took what little I had and drove into the darkness, leaving behind the only home I had ever known. What happened next destroyed them in ways they never saw coming, while I built a life they said I would never have. This is the story of how running away became the best decision I ever made, and how the family that threw me out ended up begging for mercy I no longer had to give. Growing up, I learned early that love in my family was not distributed equally. It was measured, calculated, and given in portions that had nothing to do with fairness, and everything to do with who my mother decided mattered most. That person was never me. My name is Charlotte, and I am 24 years old now, standing in the art gallery I own in downtown Portland, surrounded by paintings that sell for thousands of dollars each. But 7 years ago, I was nobody. I was the invisible daughter in a house where my younger brother Daniel was treated like royalty, while I was expected to be grateful for the scraps that fell from his table. My mother Rebecca worked as a senior financial analyst at a major investment firm, pulling in a 6-figure salary that gave our family a comfortable upper-middle-class life. My father Thomas managed a sporting goods store and made decent money, but nothing compared to what my mother brought home. She controlled every financial decision in that house, and my father never questioned her, not once, because he was terrified of losing the lifestyle her income provided. Daniel was born 2 years after me, and from the moment he arrived, I ceased to exist in any meaningful way. If he wanted something, he got it immediately. New gaming console the day it launched, done. Designer sneakers that cost $300, in the cart before he finished asking. Private soccer coaching 3 times a week with a former professional player, paid in full for the entire year. When he turned 15, my mother bought him a high-end racing bicycle that cost more than some people's cars. And when he crashed it 2 months later because he was showing off, she bought him another one without even raising her voice. I, on the other hand, had my allowance completely cut off the day I turned 12. My mother sat me down at the kitchen table and told me I was old enough to earn my own money now, that it would build character and teach me responsibility. I asked her why Daniel still got his allowance, and she looked at me like I had said something offensive. Daniel has different needs, she said, as if that explained everything. You need to learn independence. So I did. I started babysitting for neighbors when I was 13, walking dogs, mowing lawns, cleaning garages, anything that would put a few dollars in my pocket. I bought my own school supplies, my own clothes from thrift stores, paid for my own phone plan with a prepaid card I refilled every month. If I wanted to go on a field trip, I had to save up for weeks. If I needed new shoes because mine had holes, I waited until I could afford them myself. The double standards were everywhere, woven into every single day. Daniel could have friends over whenever he wanted, no notice required. I had to ask permission 3 days in advance, and only if it did not interfere with any plans Daniel might have, which somehow always took priority. His bedroom was sacred territory, off limits to everyone including me, with a lock on the door that my parents paid to have installed. My bedroom had no lock, and my mother walked in whenever she pleased, going through my things, throwing out anything she decided I did not need, which usually meant anything I had bought for myself that she considered frivolous. Daniel missed curfew constantly, sometimes coming home after midnight on school nights, and my mother would just sigh and tell him to be more careful next time. I came home 15 minutes late once because the bus broke down, and I was grounded for 2 weeks. My father never said a word. Whenever I tried to talk to him about how unfair everything was, he would look uncomfortable and mumble something about my mother knowing what was best, that she handled all the family decisions, and he trusted her judgment. What he really meant was that he was too afraid to stand up to her, too comfortable in the life her paycheck provided to risk rocking the boat. So I stopped asking him for help. I stopped asking anyone for help. When I was 14, I discovered painting completely by accident. My school offered an after-school art program that was free because it was funded by some grant, and I signed up just to have somewhere to go that was not home. The teacher, Mrs. Chen, was this tiny woman with paint-stained hands and the kindest eyes I had ever seen. She took one look at the first landscape I attempted, a clumsy mess of too bright colors and shaky lines, and said, "You have something here. Keep going." So I did. I stayed after school every single day, learning techniques, experimenting with different mediums, losing myself in the quiet focus that painting required. Mrs. Chen started giving me supplies to take home, brushes and paints and canvases she said were extras, but I knew she was buying them herself. She never made me feel like charity. She made me feel like I mattered. By the time I was 16, I was selling small paintings at local craft fairs on weekends, making enough money to not just survive, but to start saving. I opened a bank account my mother knew nothing about and deposited every dollar I earned. I had a plan forming in my mind, vague but growing clearer every day. The moment I turned 18, I was leaving. I was going to build a life where nobody could make me feel worthless ever again. But I did not make it to 18. Everything fell apart 6 months before my 18th birthday, on a cold November night that started like any other and ended with me walking out the door forever. I was 17, a senior in high school, working on the most important project of my entire academic life. It was my portfolio piece for the Regional Young Artist Competition, a huge event that offered a full scholarship to the Pacific Northwest College of Art to the winner. I had been working on this painting for 3 months, a massive canvas that measured 4 feet by 6 feet, depicting a forest scene at twilight with intricate details that had taken hundreds of hours to perfect. I had spent over $400 on materials, money I had saved from selling my work at weekend markets and doing commission pieces for people in the community. The deadline was Monday morning, and I was in the final stages, adding the last delicate touches that would bring the whole piece together. I had set up my workspace in the corner of the living room because my bedroom was too small, and my parents had agreed I could use the space as long as I cleaned up every night. Daniel was supposedly at soccer practice. My mother was upstairs working on some report, and my father was at the store closing up for the night. I was alone, focused, completely absorbed in the work. Then the front door slammed open, and Daniel walked in with 4 of his friends, all of them loud and obnoxious, tracking mud across the carpet my mother had just had professionally cleaned 2 days ago. I looked up from my painting, brush still in hand, and felt my stomach drop. Daniel and his friends were laughing about something, shoving each other, completely oblivious to the fact that I was working on something important. I tried to keep my voice calm and steady. "Hey, can you guys keep it down? I am trying to finish this, and I really need to concentrate." Daniel glanced over at me, and I saw that look in his eyes, the one that always appeared when someone told him no, when someone dared to suggest that the world did not revolve entirely around him. He walked closer, his friends trailing behind him like a pack of wolves following their leader. "What is this supposed to be?" he asked, gesturing at my canvas with a smirk. "Some kind of Bob Ross wannabe thing?" His friends laughed, and I felt heat rising in my chest. "It is my competition piece, the one I have been working on for 3 months, the one that could get me a full scholarship. So please, just go upstairs or outside or anywhere else." He leaned in closer, studying the painting with exaggerated interest, and I saw his hand reaching out. "Daniel, do not touch it. The paint is still wet in some places." He ignored me completely. His fingers pressed against the canvas right in the center, smearing a section I had spent 2 days perfecting. "Oops," he said, grinning. "My bad." Something snapped inside me. I stood up fast, knocking over my stool. "What is wrong with you? Do you have any idea what you just did?" He laughed, actually laughed, like it was the funniest thing in the world. "Relax, Charlotte. It is just a painting. You can fix it." I could not fix it. That section was layered glazes that had taken days to dry properly, colors mixed in specific ratios that I would never be able to replicate exactly. But he did not care about that. He had never cared about anything I did. His friends were watching now, sensing drama. Their phones probably already out recording because that is what kids do now. They document everything. I stepped between Daniel and my painting, blocking his path. "Get away from it. Now." He shoved me. Not hard enough to knock me down, but hard enough to make me stumble backward, my hip slamming into the edge of the coffee table. Pain shot through my side, sharp and immediate. Before I could recover, he reached past me and grabbed the canvas itself, lifting it off the easel. "Daniel, put it down," I screamed, lunging forward. He held it up high, laughing, keeping it just out of my reach while his friends recorded the whole thing. Then he did something I still cannot fully process even now. He turned the canvas sideways and slammed it down onto the corner of the coffee table, right through the center. The wooden frame cracked with a sound like a bone breaking, the canvas tearing, paint flaking off in chunks. He dropped it on the floor and stepped on it, his muddy soccer cleats grinding into 3 months of work, $400 of materials, and every hope I had for getting out of this house through that scholarship. I could not breathe. I could not think. I just stood there staring at the destroyed painting while Daniel and his friends laughed like it was the greatest joke they had ever witnessed. Then I heard footsteps on the stairs, fast and heavy. My mother appeared, her face already twisted with anger before she even saw what had happened. "What is going on down here? I am trying to work." Daniel immediately switched modes, his face crumpling into fake tears, his voice shaking with manufactured emotion. "Charlotte attacked me. She shoved me into the table because I accidentally touched her stupid painting." I stared at him, unable to believe what I was hearing. His friends, those cowards, all nodded in agreement, backing up his lie without hesitation. My mother's eyes went to the destroyed canvas on the floor, then to me, then to Daniel, who was clutching his arm like I had broken it. "Is this true?" she demanded, looking at me. "Did you put your hands on your brother?" I pointed at the painting, my voice shaking. "Look at what he did. He destroyed everything. 3 months of work, all my savings, my only chance at that scholarship. And he did it on purpose while his friends recorded it for fun." She did not even glance at the painting. "I do not care what he did to your hobby project. You do not ever, ever put your hands on him. Do you understand me?" "I did not touch him. He shoved me first. He is lying." Daniel let out a dramatic sob, and my mother moved to his side, wrapping her arm around him protectively. "Do not make this worse by lying, Charlotte. I know what you are capable of when you get angry." I felt something cold settle in my chest, spreading outward until my whole body felt numb. My father appeared then, coming through the front door, taking in the scene with wide eyes. I looked at him, silently begging him to say something, to defend me, to tell the truth about who Daniel really was. He looked at the floor. He said nothing. My mother's voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Apologize to your brother right now, or get the hell out of my house." The room went completely still. Daniel's friends had stopped recording, sensing that this had gone from entertainment to something darker. Daniel himself looked almost uncertain for a moment, like maybe he had not expected it to go this far. My father finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Rebecca, maybe we should all calm down and talk about this." "Stay out of this, Thomas," my mother snapped. "She knows the rules. She knows that violence is never acceptable in this house. Apologize, Charlotte. Now." I looked at her. Really looked at her. and saw nothing in her eyes that resembled love or fairness or even basic human decency. I looked at my father, who could not meet my gaze. I looked at Daniel, who had destroyed my future for fun and was now playing the victim. I looked at the ruined painting on the floor, at the shattered frame and torn canvas and smeared paint that represented everything I had worked for. Then I looked back at my mother and said, very quietly, very calmly, "Got it." Her eyes narrowed. "Got it what? I want to hear you apologize." "No," I said. "I mean, I got your message. I will get out of your house." I turned and walked toward the stairs. Behind me, my mother started yelling, but I did not hear the words anymore. They were just noise, meaningless and distant. I went to my room and closed the door. I moved with a clarity I had never experienced before, like someone had flipped a switch in my brain and suddenly everything was simple and obvious. I pulled my largest backpack from the closet and started filling it with systematic precision. 5 pairs of jeans, 8 shirts, enough underwear and socks for 2 weeks, my winter jacket, my only pair of boots that did not have holes, my laptop and charger, the external hard drive with all my digital photos of my artwork, every sketchbook I had ever filled. I went to my mattress and pulled up the corner where I had cut a small slit in the fabric 2 years ago. Inside was an envelope containing $3,200 in cash, every dollar I had earned and saved since I was 14. I had been planning to use it for art supplies and living expenses once I got that scholarship. But plans change. I grabbed my birth certificate and social security card from the file box under my bed, the one my mother thought only contained old school papers. I took the phone charger, my headphones, my toothbrush, and the basics from the bathroom. I left behind every photo album, every childhood toy, every yearbook, every piece of jewelry my grandmother had given me before she died. If it could be used to manipulate me emotionally later, it stayed. If it did not keep me alive or help me build a future, I did not need it. The whole process took me 38 minutes. I could hear my mother downstairs, still yelling, her voice rising and falling in waves of anger. I could hear my father's quieter voice trying to calm her down, failing as always. I could hear Daniel and his friends leaving, the front door slamming, their laughter fading as they walked down the street like nothing had happened. I zipped up my backpack, slung it over my shoulders, and grabbed the small duffel bag I had packed with my art supplies, the ones that had survived Daniel's destruction. Then I walked downstairs one last time. My mother was in the kitchen, pacing back and forth, talking on her phone to someone, probably her sister, complaining about her ungrateful daughter. My father sat at the kitchen table, head in his hands. Neither of them looked up when I walked past. I went to the small desk by the front door where we kept the mail and the random junk that accumulated in every household. I found a blank envelope, pulled out a pen, and wrote 4 words in block letters. "I am gone. Goodbye." I placed it in the center of the kitchen table where my mother would find it in the morning when she came down for her coffee at exactly 6:15 like she did every single day. Then I picked up my car keys from the hook by the door. The car was a 1998 Honda Civic that my father had bought for $2,000 when I turned 16. He had put the title in my name because it lowered the insurance cost, never imagining I would actually use that fact to my advantage. I walked out the front door at 11:47 at night, pulled it closed behind me without looking back, and got in my car. The engine started on the second try, coughing and rattling but catching. I sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, looking at the house I had grown up in. It looked smaller somehow, less significant, just a building full of people who had never really seen me. I put the car in drive and pulled away from the curb. I did not turn on my headlights until I reached the main road. I drove north on Interstate 5 with no specific destination in mind, just a direction that felt right. The highway was nearly empty at that hour, just a few long-haul trucks and the occasional car passing in the opposite direction. I kept the radio off and the windows cracked just enough to let in cold air that kept me alert. Every mile felt like a chain breaking, Like I was shedding weight I had been carrying for so long I had forgotten what it felt like to move freely. Around 2 a.m, I pulled into a rest stop and sat in the parking lot with the engine running, trying to figure out what to do next. I had money, I had a car, I had my documents, but I had no plan beyond getting away. Then I remembered Mrs. Chen, my art teacher, the one person who had ever made me feel like my work mattered. She had retired 2 years ago and moved to Portland to be closer to her daughter. She had given me her address and phone number, told me to stay in touch, to let her know how the competition went. I had her number saved in my phone under emergency contact, because that is what she was, the only adult I trusted. I called her at 2:30 in the morning, sitting in that rest stop parking lot, watching the trucks come and go. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice groggy but alert. "Charlotte, is that you? Are you okay?" I tried to speak, and found I could not get words out. Everything I had been holding back since the moment Daniel destroyed my painting came flooding up, and I started crying, really crying, for the first time in years. "I need help," I finally managed to say. "I left home. I do not have anywhere to go." There was a pause, then her voice came back, clear and firm and completely calm. "Where are you right now?" I told her. "Stay there. Do not move. I am coming to get you." "Mrs. Chen, you do not have to do that. I just needed to hear a friendly voice. I will figure something out." "Charlotte," she said, and her voice was gentle, but left no room for argument. "You are not figuring this out alone. I am leaving right now. I will be there in 40 minutes. Stay in your car, keep the doors locked, and wait for me." She hung up before I could protest further. I sat there in the parking lot, watching the clock on my dashboard tick forward, and for the first time since I had walked out of that house, I felt something other than numbness. I felt hope. Mrs. Chen arrived in 37 minutes, pulling up next to my car in her old Subaru. She got out, walked over to my window, and waited for me to unlock the door. Then she leaned in and said, "Follow me home. We will figure everything out in the morning." I followed her through the dark streets of Portland to a small house in a quiet neighborhood. She led me inside, showed me to a guest room with clean sheets and a door that locked from the inside, and told me to sleep. "We will talk tomorrow," she said. "Right now you are safe. That is all that matters." I woke up the next morning to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee drifting up from downstairs. For a moment I forgot where I was, panic rising in my chest until I remembered. I was at Mrs. Chen's house. I was safe. I was free. I got dressed in the same clothes I had worn the night before and went downstairs. Mrs. Chen was in the kitchen, standing at the stove making scrambled eggs and toast. She looked up when I walked in and smiled. "Good morning. I hope you like eggs. I also have cereal if you prefer." I sat down at the small kitchen table, and she placed a plate in front of me without waiting for an answer. We ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes before she finally spoke. "Do you want to tell me what happened?" So I did. I told her everything, starting from the years of being treated like I did not matter, the double standards, the way my mother worshipped Daniel while treating me like an inconvenience. I told her about the painting, about Daniel destroying it on purpose, about my mother demanding I apologize or leave, about my father saying nothing. I told her about packing my bag and walking out and driving north with no plan except to get away. She listened without interrupting, her face calm, but her eyes showing the anger she was holding back. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "You are not going back there. Not now, not ever, unless you decide you want to. Do you understand me?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. "You are going to stay here as long as you need to. I have this guest room that nobody uses. You are going to finish high school. You are going to keep making art. And we are going to figure out how to build you a life that nobody can take away from you." Over the next few days, we worked out the details. Mrs. Chen called the school district and arranged for me to transfer to a Portland high school, claiming I was her niece who had come to live with her due to family circumstances. She signed papers as my temporary guardian, and nobody questioned it because she was a retired teacher with a spotless record, and I was a 17-year-old with good grades who clearly needed help. My parents never filed a missing person report. I checked online obsessively for the first week, expecting to see my face on some local news site. But there was nothing. They had taken me at my word. I had said I was leaving, and they had let me go without a single attempt to find me. Part of me had hoped they would care enough to look. The fact that they did not hurt in a way I had not expected. Mrs. Chen put me to work immediately. She had a small art studio in her basement, where she still painted and taught occasional private lessons. She set me up with a corner workspace, gave me access to all her supplies, and told me to start rebuilding my portfolio. That competition is not the only opportunity in the world, she said. There are dozens of scholarships, grants, programs for young artists. We are going to apply to all of them. So I painted. I painted every day after school, every weekend, every spare moment I had. I painted with a focus and intensity I had never experienced before. Because now I was not just painting for a grade or a competition. I was painting for my survival, for my future, for proof that I was worth something, even if my own family did not think so. 3 months after I left home, I got an email that changed everything. It was from the Pacific Northwest College of Art, the same school that sponsored the competition I had been preparing for before Daniel destroyed my work. They had seen my portfolio online, the digital copies I had uploaded to various art platforms over the years, and they were offering me a full scholarship, plus a stipend for living expenses. They wanted me to start in the fall. I read the email 3 times before I believed it was real. Then I ran downstairs and showed Mrs. Chen, and she hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "I told you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I told you that you had something special. Now, the world is going to see it too." I started college that fall, 2 months after my 18th birthday. I moved into the dorms, worked part-time at a coffee shop near campus, and threw myself into my studies with everything I had. I learned techniques I had never even heard of, studied under professors who were actual working artists, and started showing my work in small galleries around Portland. By my sophomore year, I had sold my first painting for $1,500. By my junior year, I had a waiting list of clients. By the time I graduated, I had enough money saved to rent a small studio space in a converted warehouse downtown. That was 4 years ago. Today, I own that entire warehouse. I converted it into a gallery and working studio, a space where I create and sell my own work and showcase other emerging artists who need the same kind of chance I got. I employ 6 people. I make more money than my mother ever did at her corporate job. I have a life I built entirely on my own terms, with my own hands, using the skills that nobody could ever take away from me. Meanwhile, back in Seattle, my family fell apart in ways they never saw coming. I heard about it through the grapevine, through mutual acquaintances who did not know the full story of why I had left. Daniel got his girlfriend pregnant when he was 18. My mother, predictable as always, went into full protection mode. She drained their savings account to rent them an apartment, bought every baby item they needed, paid all the medical bills when their insurance fell short. 6 months after the baby was born, the girlfriend left. Just packed her bags one day and disappeared, leaving Daniel with an infant he had no idea how to care for. My mother moved him and the baby back into their house and took over everything, formula and diapers and doctor visits. All of it paid for with credit cards because my father had been laid off from his store manager position when the company downsized. He started working 3 part-time jobs just to keep up with the mortgage payments, but it was never enough. The bills piled up. The interest compounded. They started missing payments. Then Daniel, overwhelmed and resentful, walked out one night and never came back. He left the baby with my mother and disappeared. No note, no explanation. just gone. My mother tried to find him, filed reports, called everyone she knew, but he had vanished completely. She was left raising a toddler in her 50s while working 2 jobs and watching her marriage crumble under the weight of financial stress and resentment. They lost the house 2 years ago. Foreclosure. They moved into a small apartment in a bad neighborhood, the kind of place my mother used to drive past and make judgmental comments about. My father developed health problems from the stress and the lack of sleep, racking up medical bills they could not pay. Last I heard, they were barely surviving, living paycheck to paycheck, drowning in debt, with no savings and no hope of retirement. And through all of it, they never once reached out to me. Not to apologize, not to ask for help, not even to see if I was still alive. If you're reading this and you felt the same kind of pain I did, the same kind of invisibility in your own family, I want you to know something. You are not alone. Your story matters. Your pain is real. And you have the power to build something beautiful from the ashes of what hurt you. Subscribe if this story touched you. If you've ever felt like the invisible child, if you've ever had to choose between your dignity and your family's approval, leave a comment telling me your story. I read every single one, and I promise you, I see you. For 6 years, I lived in complete peace. I built my gallery. I created art that people actually wanted to buy. I dated and had relationships that were healthy and equal. I made friends who valued me for who I was, rather than what I could do for them. I went to therapy and worked through the damage that 17 years of emotional neglect had caused. I learned what it felt like to be seen, to be valued, to matter. I learned that family is not always the people you are born to, but the people who choose to show up for you when it counts. Mrs. Chen became more than a mentor. She became the mother I should have had, the one who celebrated my successes and supported me through my failures, and never once made me feel like I was less than enough. When I opened my gallery, she was the first person I invited. When I sold my first major piece for $10,000, she cried harder than I did. When I bought my first house, a small craftsman bungalow in a quiet neighborhood, she helped me paint every room and plant flowers in the front yard. She was there for all of it, and I made sure she knew how much that meant to me. I never thought about my biological family anymore. They had become like characters in a story I had read once and mostly forgotten, distant and unreal. I did not hate them. I did not wish them harm. I simply did not think about them at all, which is perhaps the most final form of letting go. Then, 3 months ago, my mother walked into my gallery. I was in the back office going over invoices when I heard the front bell chime. My assistant Marcus called back. "Charlotte, someone is here asking for you specifically." I walked out front, expecting a client or maybe a journalist wanting to do a feature on the gallery. Instead, I saw her. She looked older, much older than she should have for only being in her mid-50s. Her hair was mostly gray now, pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore clothes that looked worn and cheap, the kind she used to make snide comments about when she saw other people wearing them. Her face was thinner, harder, with lines around her mouth and eyes that spoke of stress and sleepless nights. She saw me and her whole face crumpled. "Charlotte," she said, and her voice broke on my name. I stood there, frozen, unable to process what I was seeing. Marcus looked between us, confused, waiting for some signal about what to do. I finally found my voice. "What are you doing here?" She took a step toward me, and I saw tears starting to stream down her face. "I needed to see you. I needed to tell you how sorry I am, face to face. Please, just give me 5 minutes." I looked at Marcus. "Can you give us the room?" He nodded and disappeared into the back office, closing the door behind him. I did not invite her to sit. I just stood there, arms crossed, waiting. She started talking, words tumbling out like she had rehearsed them 1,000 times, but was still getting them wrong. "I was a terrible mother to you. I see that now. The way I treated you. The way I always put Daniel first. The way I let him destroy your painting, and then blamed you for it. I was wrong about everything. I have spent every day since you left regretting it, wishing I could take it back, wishing I had been the mother you deserved. She was crying hard now, her whole body shaking with sobs that sounded genuine. Around us, the gallery was quiet, except for a couple browsing paintings in the far corner, pretending not to notice the drama unfolding. Everything fell apart after you left, she continued. Daniel got that girl pregnant, and I thought I could fix it. I thought I could make it work. But she left, and then he left, and now I am raising his child alone while working 2 jobs, and your father is sick, and we lost the house, and everything is just gone, Charlotte. Everything is gone. And I know it is my fault. I know I did this. I pushed away the one child who actually had her life together, who actually knew how to work hard and build something real. I was so blind. I was so stupid. Please, please forgive me. Please give me another chance. I know I do not deserve it, but I am begging you. I let her finish. I let every word hang in the air between us until the silence became uncomfortable. Then I spoke, my voice calm and steady and completely devoid of emotion. I heard your apology. Her face lit up with desperate hope. But we are done. Do not come back here. Do not call me. Do not try to find me. We are finished. The hope died instantly, replaced by shock and then desperation. No. Please, Charlotte. I know I hurt you, but I am your mother. We can fix this. We can rebuild. I will do anything. I will change. I will be better. Just please do not shut me out completely. I shook my head slowly. You were never my mother. Not in any way that mattered. A mother protects her child. A mother sees her child. A mother does not choose favorites and throw away the one who does not fit her perfect picture. You had 17 years to be my mother, and you chose not to. You do not get to show up now that your life is falling apart and expect me to save you. I am sorry, she sobbed. I am so, so sorry. I know you are, but your apology does not change anything. It does not fix the past. It does not make me forget all those years of being invisible. It just proves how late you are. I turned and walked toward the back office. Behind me, I heard her calling my name, her voice breaking, but I did not stop. I did not look back. I walked into the office and closed the door. Marcus looked up at me, concern written all over his face. You okay? I nodded. Yeah, I am good. Can you make sure she leaves? He stood up immediately. On it. I heard him talking to her in low tones, heard the front door open and close, heard the blessed silence that followed. I sat down at my desk and went back to the invoices I had been reviewing, my hands steady, my mind clear. That was the last time I saw her. Some people wait their whole lives for an apology that will make everything okay. I stopped waiting the night I drove away at 17. By the time those words finally came, I did not need them anymore. They did not heal anything. They did not change anything. They just proved that some apologies come too late to matter. The weeks after my mother's visit were strange. I kept expecting to feel something, guilt or sadness or anger. But mostly, I just felt nothing. I had moved on so completely that her reappearance was like a ghost showing up from a life I no longer inhabited. I did not tell many people about it. Mrs. Chen knew, of course, because I told her everything. She listened while I recounted the whole conversation, and when I finished, she just nodded and said, "Good. You do not owe her forgiveness just because she finally figured out she was wrong." My girlfriend at the time, a sculptor named Maya, who I had been seeing for about 8 months, had a different reaction. We were having dinner at my place when I mentioned it casually, and she put down her fork and stared at me. "Wait, Your mother showed up begging for forgiveness and you just told her to leave? Charlotte, she is your mother. Do you not think you were a little harsh? I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Harsh? She threw me out when I was 17 because I would not apologize for something I did not do. She chose my brother over me every single day of my life. She watched him destroy months of my work and blamed me for it. And you think I was harsh? Maya shifted uncomfortably. I just think family is important. People make mistakes. Maybe she deserves a second chance. I looked at her for a long moment, really looked at her, and realized we were never going to work. She had 17 years of chances. She used every single one of them to make me feel worthless. I do not owe her anything. We broke up 2 days later. She said I was too closed off, too unwilling to forgive, too cold. I did not argue with her. I just packed up the things she had left at my place and wished her well. Some people will never understand what it is like to be the unwanted child, and I stopped trying to explain it to them. A month after my mother's visit, I got a call from a number I did not recognize. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. It was my father. His voice was quiet, hesitant, like he was afraid I would hang up immediately. Charlotte, it is Dad. Please do not hang up. I just want to talk for a minute. I should have hung up. I should have blocked the number and moved on. But there was something in his voice, something broken and desperate, that made me stay on the line. What do you want? I asked, my voice flat. I wanted to apologize. For everything. For not standing up for you. For letting your mother treat you the way she did. For not coming after you when you left. For all of it. I was a coward, Charlotte. I was too afraid of losing the comfortable life to risk standing up to her, and I let you pay the price for my weakness. I am sorry. I am so sorry. I sat down on my couch, staring at the wall, trying to process what I was hearing. Why are you calling me now? After 6 years? He was quiet for a moment. Because I am dying. Lung cancer. Stage 4. The doctors say I have maybe 6 months, probably less, and I could not die without telling you that you were right about everything. Your mother was wrong. I was wrong. You deserved so much better than what we gave you. And I am proud of you, Charlotte. I am proud of what you have built, of who you have become. I just wanted you to know that before I go. I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. You do not get to do this. You do not get to call me when you are dying and dump all this guilt on me and expect me to absolve you. You had years to be my father. You chose not to. You do not get forgiveness just because you are running out of time. His voice cracked. I know. I know I do not deserve it. I am not asking for forgiveness. I am just asking you to know that I see you now. I see what we did to you. And I am sorry. I hung up. I sat there on my couch for a long time, staring at nothing, feeling emotions I thought I had buried years ago trying to claw their way back to the surface. Then I called Mrs. Chen. She came over within 20 minutes, let herself in with the key I had given her, and sat down next to me without saying a word. I told her about the call. She listened, and when I finished, she took my hand. What do you want to do? She asked. I do not know, I admitted. Part of me wants to go see him, to tell him everything I never got to say. But another part of me knows it would not change anything. He would still be the father who let me down every single day, and I would still be the daughter who had to save herself because nobody else would. Mrs. Chen squeezed my hand. Then do not go. You do not owe him a deathbed reconciliation. You do not owe him closure. If seeing him would hurt you more than it would help, then do not do it. Your peace matters more than his guilt. So I did not go. I did not call him back. I did not send a message. I just let it be. 3 months later, I got a call from a lawyer telling me my father had passed away and had left me something in his will. I almost told the lawyer I did not want it, whatever it was, but curiosity got the better of me. I went to the lawyer's office and sat in an uncomfortable chair while he read through the will. My father had left me $10,000, money he had apparently been saving in a secret account for years. The lawyer handed me an envelope that had been attached to the will. Inside was a letter, handwritten, 3 pages long. I read it right there in the lawyer's office while he politely pretended to work on something else. The letter was everything I had needed to hear when I was 17, and nothing I needed now. My father wrote about his regrets, about how he had watched me grow up strong and independent and talented while he stood by and did nothing to protect me. He wrote about how he had always been proud of me, even when he never said it out loud. He wrote about how he knew I would never forgive him, and he did not expect me to, but he wanted me to have the money as a way of saying he saw me, finally, even if it was too late. He wrote about how he hoped I would use it for something that brought me joy, something that proved I had built a life worth living, despite everything they had done to try to break me. I folded the letter, put it back in the envelope, and thanked the lawyer. I deposited the check and used the money to start a scholarship fund for young artists who were aging out of foster care or leaving abusive homes. I called it the Second Chance Fund, and every year it provides full supplies and mentorship to 10 emerging artists who need someone to believe in them. I did not name it after my father. I did not put his name anywhere on the paperwork, but I know he would have understood why I used his money that way. It was the only apology I could accept, the only one that actually meant something, because it helped other people who were going through what I went through. It turned his guilt into something useful. My mother tried to contact me twice more after that. Once through a cousin I barely knew, asking if I would be willing to help financially now that my father was gone and she was struggling to make ends meet. I told the cousin no, and asked her not to contact me again on my mother's behalf. The second time was a letter that arrived at the gallery, handwritten, 6 pages of apologies and explanations and justifications. I read the first paragraph, realized it was just more of the same, and threw it away without finishing it. I do not owe her my forgiveness. I do not owe her my money. I do not owe her anything at all. She made her choices. She lived with the consequences. That is not my responsibility to fix. Daniel resurfaced about a year ago. He sent me a message on social media. A long, rambling thing about how he was sorry for everything, how he had been young and stupid, how he understood now what he had done to me. He said he was sober now, working construction, trying to be a better person. He said he wanted to meet up, to talk, to try to rebuild some kind of relationship. I read the message 3 times. Then I blocked him without responding. I do not need his apology either. I do not need closure from any of them. I already have everything I need. I have a life I built with my own hands. I have people who love me because of who I am, not because they are obligated to. I have a career that fulfills me. I have a home that is mine. I have peace. That is more than enough. People ask me sometimes if I regret leaving the way I did, if I wish I had tried harder to make it work with my family, if I think about reaching out now that enough time has passed. The answer is always no. I do not regret a single choice I made that night. I do not wish I had stayed and tried to fix something that was never my responsibility to fix. I do not think about reaching out because there is nothing left to say. They had 17 years to love me, and they chose not to. They do not get to rewrite that story now just because their lives fell apart, and mine did not. Some people will tell you that family is everything, that you should forgive and forget, that blood is thicker than water. Those people have never been the unwanted child. They have never had to choose between their dignity and their family's approval. They have never had to walk away from everyone they have ever known just to survive. I am here to tell you that it is okay to walk away. It is okay to choose yourself. It is okay to build a life with people who actually see you and value you and show up for you when it matters. It is okay to let go of people who hurt you, even if they are family, even if they are sorry, even if they are dying, even if everyone else thinks you are being too harsh. Your peace is worth more than their comfort. Your healing is worth more than their guilt. Your future is worth more than their past. I am 24 years old. I own a successful gallery. I have a beautiful home. I have people in my life who love me unconditionally. I have art that brings me joy and purpose. I have a scholarship fund that helps other young people escape the same kind of situations I escaped. I have everything I ever wanted, and I built it all without them. That is not bitterness. That is not revenge. That is just the truth. They had their chance to be part of my life, and they wasted it. I am not going to waste my life waiting for them to finally get it right. So if you are reading this, if you are the invisible child in your family, if you are the one who always gets blamed and never gets seen, if you are the one who is expected to apologize for things you did not do just to keep the peace, I want you to know something. You are allowed to leave. You are allowed to build a life without them. You are allowed to thrive while they struggle. You are allowed to say no to their apologies if those apologies do not heal anything. You are allowed to protect your peace, even if it means cutting off people who share your blood. Because at the end of the day, the only person responsible for your happiness is you. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who will never love you the way you deserve to be loved. I walked away 7 years ago, and I have never looked back. And I have never been happier.